So, hello everyone, and welcome to STW Sports. The second day of the World Cup has just ended. 3 live games. Of course, we had a game yesterday as well between host Qatar and Ecuador from South America. I'm joined by fellow Brit Nelson Walker, 2 Brits living in Spain, but it's a good day to be English, Nelson. We don't often say that about England in the opening games of a World Cup. Our general opening game record in major tournaments is pretty poor, but that's not 3 wins in a row in our opening game at major tournaments. And the last 2 tournaments, we've gone pretty far. So more of the same this time, please. We are going to start with England. We will go on to the Qatar-Ecuador game afterwards. We're going to start, though, with England. Nelson, England 6, Iran 2. I mean, there was optimism there for this game. I think a lot of people tipped England to beat Iran on paper. 6-2, though. Don't think many people saw that come in. And what a brilliant performance from England. Fantastic to watch. Yeah, everything went right for England today. Brilliant performance. And just for the confidence boost, what a result.
Yes, absolutely. And obviously we're talking about this just a few days ago, but how important it is to set the tone in a tournament, get that first win under your belt. And I think I was mentioning in the last time we spoke, it doesn't have to be. Oh, hi, Jordan.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, good. Yeah, I'm Nelson. Nice to
Nelson.
nice to see you on this stream. So yeah, we're just talking about the England-Iran game and how important it is to set the tone in the tournament. I think it was really impressive the way England did that today, and particularly offensively in the forward areas that impressed me a lot.
Yeah, for sure. Hi, Sam. By the way, how you doing? You okay?
Yeah, good. Thank you. Not too bad.
Good. Yeah, fantastic. I mean, first game. I think a lot. I think in terms of like the team that was set out, couple of question marks over Foden and people like that not starting, but I think you got the team bang on to that. Obviously, pace down the wings. Saka was brilliant. Every single player was fantastic, and I think even Pickford pulled off a magnificent save as well. Could have been more, obviously. The 2 goals, obviously, that we conceded, I think the first one was just a kind of a lapse in concentration, but obviously the penalty that was a little bit dubious, considering that Maguire's one wasn't given, and I think that one, if I take my England hat off, I think that one was worse, way worse. But yeah, to get 6 goals in an opening day, fantastic, and it just puts us into a good stead now for Friday.
Yeah, well, guys, I mean, obviously 6-2. I mean, I want to come to you, Jordan. Obviously, the first goal scorer for England today was Jude Bellingham, none other than Jude Bellingham, obviously a player you'd have followed from the age of 16 when he made his Birmingham City debut. Amazingly, when England played in 2018 in Russia, Jude Bellingham hadn't even made his Birmingham City debut, which is incredible to think. And then he's scoring at 19 years old today. And to be honest, I don't know about you two, but I was watching the game in the opening half an hour thinking this is not going to be our day. The goalkeeper went down for a long time. We didn't get that early penalty decision, as you rightly mentioned, Jordan. Could have been a penalty on Stones or Maguire, really. And it was kind of as if it just got me thinking this is going to be one of them days for England where nothing was going well. Iran had a game plan. They were wasting time. Bellingham's goal really opened the floodgates. And what a moment for Jude Bellingham, 19 years of age. And I don't think I struggle to remember a player who was this good at 19 years old and scoring on the World Cup stage. Just another chapter in what's going to be an amazing career, surely, for Bellingham.
Yeah, I mean, like you say, Sam, I've followed him from when he made his debut with us. It seems like a lot of time ago now that he's come on leaps and bounds, but you always knew he was going to be special. But for him to be at the level he's at the moment, he's up there with one of the best centre mids in the world, and he's only 19. And the scary thing is, he's only going to get better. The way he glided around that pitch today was sensational. And yes, okay, he's playing a lesser opposition in Iran, but I think he'll have the capabilities to do that against a Germany or a Spain or any of the top nations for that matter. And he's just exactly what England have needed. He's like an old-fashioned box-to-box midfielder, but he's got everything in his game. I mean, his defensive duties, he does fantastic. The maturity of the lad as well for 19, and even how he speaks in his interviews and everything, he's just got, so much on his shoulders at such a young age. And, I couldn't be prouder, obviously, being a Blue Nose, and he's a diehard Blue Nose himself, for him to open his account in the World Cup stage. And funnily enough, he scored the same goals as Wayne Rooney has, but obviously he's got a way to go to get to that level. And I think he could go down as one of the best English players ever, in my opinion. He's definitely got captain's ability potential. as well. And just the way he drove the team on today, I just think he's just going to get better as the tournament progresses. I hope he just stays fit now for as long as we are in the competition, because he's going to be key to us getting successful into this competition. And to be fair, it's you got to give Southgate credit for actually playing him. I mean, he hasn't really got a choice not to because of the level he's at the moment. But he could have been safe today, and he could have maybe changed the formation a little bit or not played him. But he's the first name on that team sheet by a long way, I think, at the moment. Obviously, alongside sort of Harry Kane and Pickford, but he's going to set this World Cup alight, and I think there's more to come from him in this competition.
Absolutely. What a start for Bellingham and England. And Nelson, just touching on the rest of the game, we speak about Jude Bellingham. Obviously, the last major tournament for England, Bukayo Saka and Marcus Rashford, 2 players who missed penalties in the final of that shootout. The mentality that especially Saka in particular has really showed in the last, year and a half since then has been incredible, to be honest. And those 2 scoring today, well, Rashford scoring with pretty much his first couple of touches in about 30 seconds with him being on the pitch. Incredible, really. And again, to the confidence of all these players now going forward, you can only imagine is going to be brilliant. And obviously getting as many people on the score sheet today, Jack Grealish even coming on and getting a goal as well. And even Sterling, who's been really out of form for Chelsea. I think this is going to give England so much confidence going forward. And yes, we conceded 2 goals, which was disappointing, but it was just a joy to watch, really. The most free-flowing England performance I can remember in recent time.
It was. And as you mentioned, I think aside from those 2 goals, it was an absolutely perfect game for England today. Obviously, you mentioned the goal scorers. Grealish obviously not playing much for Manchester City as well, getting a goal. Like you say, Sterling's been a bit out of form at Chelsea, getting a goal. And yeah, Saka just, along with Bellingham, sort of ran the show. The 2 sort of real highlights for England individually, I would say. And it was a joy to see Saka score those 2 goals. Obviously, after the heartbreak of last summer and the horrendous abuse he got following that game. So the way he's responded this season with Arsenal, obviously top of the league, as you well know, Sam, 5 points clear. He's been a standout player for Arsenal in that run so far, and to do it in the first game for England, yes, it is admittedly not the best Iran team. But the way he took his 2 goals, I think, were excellent finishes as well. And it's a massive good sign for England that Saka and these players are already getting a feel for the goals right at the start of the tournament. So the perfect day for England.
Absolutely. We're going to move away from England. We're actually going to go back to yesterday now, Jordan. Qatar versus Ecuador. Well, obviously not the most thrilling opener on paper, and it certainly wasn't the most thrilling game in the world either. Obviously, Ecuador winning pretty convincingly and having that goal chalked off early on in a rather controversial fashion. But looking back at it now, I do think it was the right decision. But as far as Qatar go, though, I mean, I'm not saying I was expecting much from them personally, and I don't think many people were. But, I think Sadio Mane particularly will be gutted he's injured, because looking at that Qatar team, I mean, any good striker who comes up against them could really have a field day. I mean, the goalkeeper for Qatar looked nervy from minute 1, and also as well, I mean, that just Qatar in general just did not look like they had much about them, and it was a concerning performance from the hosts.
Yeah, I agree, 100%. I mean, like you say, that was a bit controversial for the first goal, but when you play it back and obviously watch it to the actual fine margins, it probably, he's offside, obviously, but it did look a bit suspect. And obviously, with all the talk about potential bribes and stuff like that, which obviously is of course maybe just be rumours, but it did look a little bit suspect. And I do think, just on that note, just like a couple of decisions in the England game today, I think VAR hasn't got off to the best of starts as of yet either at the minute, but hopefully it gets better throughout the competition. But yeah, like you say, Sam, I think Qatar are there just to make the numbers up, really. They look poor. Obviously, Ecuador are a decent team. They're not amazing. I don't think that they'll be looking to. I think it'll be Senegal and Holland that will get out of that group. But like you say, Sam, somebody like a Mane will have a field day against them. I think Gakpo for Holland, he will get himself on the score sheet again. But yeah, I can't even see them scoring a goal, in all honesty. But yeah, I think they'll be dead certs for bottom. And then it's just between. I think Holland have got, obviously a lot about them. I think they'll get through quite convincingly. And I think obviously it'll be a toss up then between sort of Senegal and Ecuador. Ecuador obviously already on 3 points, which is fantastic for them. And they'll be looking to get something out of that Senegal game to get them into the second place. But yeah, like you say, Sam, I think not the greatest of openings, but today's been fantastic. I haven't moved off my my sofa today. That's why I booked it off work just to catch up. And we got 4 lovely games tomorrow, mate, which is even better.
Absolutely. So, Nelson, obviously spoken about Qatar and maybe the concerning manner of their performance. Ecuador, yes, of course, people say it is only Qatar and the opposition. However, you look at Ecuador, though, they've qualified for this tournament, considering the South American region is not easy to qualify from when you've got the likes of Chile, who aren't here this year, Colombia, who aren't here, of course. Ecuador must have something about them to get this far, and I think that Enner Valencia, obviously, formerly in the Premier League at West Ham and Everton. I mean, wasn't a prolific player in the Premier League, but his international record's magnificent. 37 goals in 75 games. And he looks sharp. I mean, he could have had a hat-trick, and he probably, should have had a hat-trick yesterday. But Ecuador, though, I think for them, I mean, despite obviously not the strongest opposition been up against, the confidence that'll give Ecuador, and now obviously Senegal have lost today as well, Ecuador might fancy their chances to get second place in this group.
Yeah, I agree, absolutely. And I think now with Mane obviously being ruled out of the tournament, which is such a shame, and as a Liverpool fan, as much as he's obviously gone to Bayern Munich, it's such a shame not to see him in the tournament. He could have been one of the stars of the tournament. So psychologically, and having lost the first game, Senegal probably aren't in the best place really. And Ecuador, yes, they have just beaten Qatar, and I think they would have expected to beat them. But they're 3 points ahead. They'll be going into their next couple of games with lots of confidence. So I think it could be a little bit more challenging now for Senegal. I think Senegal have really got to get 3 points in the next game if they want to get out of the group, because I'm expecting Ecuador to push on really, and with their confidence, I can see Ecuador getting out of the group now.
Yeah, and Jordan, moving on to today's game, the second game of the day, obviously after England, was Senegal versus Netherlands, another game from Group A. Senegal, obviously, the main talking point, they're missing Sadio Mane. I mean, obviously, I watched the AFCON at the start of the year, and it certainly wasn't a great tournament, and Senegal's style of play was criticised by a lot of people for being quite dull. They had a couple of 0-0 draws in the African Cup of Nations. Yes, they went on to win the tournament, but the style of play certainly wasn't thrilling. But to be honest, I think they were quite unfortunate today to lose this game 2-0 because they had a lot of shots at goal, and I think Senegal, even without Mane, do look a pretty decent team, and they've still got 1 or 2 players who could cause a few issues. They just didn't really have that cutting edge going forward. And I've been saying for weeks now, this tournament came at the worst time for Mendy. I think that Mendy, if this tournament was a year ago, would have been, obviously in really good form. But due to Mendy's huge drop-off at Chelsea, I feel like the 2 goals today as well, he should have done better for both of the goals. And it kind of shows that Netherlands just had that little bit more quality. But as for Senegal, it's disappointing because they actually played quite well for me. And to lose 2-0, I thought was a little bit of an unfair result.
Yeah, I think, in a game against sort of, obviously Qatar being one, and Ecuador will be interesting. Like you say, Sam, it was a very even game up until Holland scored. And even then, they was coming back stronger, and I was impressed with them, to be honest. I think they will cause some issues. Obviously, it's tipped for us to get them in the round of 16 if they come second. And I think it's going to be a tough game. They don't just sit back and invite pressure like in Iran. They will go at it, which is where their key man Mane, they really are missing it. They really did miss him today, and I think with him on the pitch, potentially they could have got something out of the game today, because he is obviously a world-class player, which is showing it at Liverpool and obviously now Bayern Munich as well now. So it's a shame, team like Senegal having him in the squad. It could have been a different tournament for them. So I do feel sorry for him in that respect. Like you say, Sam, it was an even game up to the point of obviously Holland scoring. I think Holland wasn't at their best either today. You could see it was a Louis van Gaal kind of game. Like it wasn't the usual Dutch flair that we used to seeing. But I think they'll get better as the competition goes on. Obviously, they'll pick up some momentum from picking up points from today, and obviously the next 2 games as well. But Senegal are still in with a chance. It's going to be down to that Ecuador game now. Obviously, if they win that, I can see them going through. And like I say, they will surprise. They could surprise a few. Obviously, Aloha Cisse, another Blues. It seems like all Blues. Blues former player. Obviously, like you say, Sam, we did have a couple of dull performances in the AFCON, but I think potentially they could have a decent. Well, especially get out of the group stage at least, mate. Definitely.
Yeah, and Nelson, we're going to talk about Netherlands now, of course. Netherlands, obviously, fancied by many to win this group, and with pretty much maximum points. Their toughest opposition in this group are Senegal. They've already got 3 points from that. It wasn't the most convincing performance, but I think the key for Netherlands was they got the job done. I think that obviously they've not really been in major tournaments for a long time. Now, obviously, they were in the Euros, got beat in the last 16 by Czech Republic, but they were absent from the 2018 World Cup and Euro 2016. And I think, obviously, when Van Gaal left in 2014, they went through a major transition. And one player who came from particularly is Gakpo, who I think Jordan mentioned earlier on, scored today as well. Obviously, had a brilliant start to the season at PSV as well. And obviously, Klaassen, former Everton misfit, but he got the second goal today. And Netherlands, in the end, got the 3 points, and that's all that matters. They started their World Cup campaign in a positive way.
Yeah, they have, and I think we mentioned it before, but in tournament football, you don't need to be pretty. It's about putting points on the board and getting through. And the group stage, more than anything, arguably, just get through the group. And I think now they've beaten their toughest opposition, Senegal. I think those two were definitely the two you'd fancy to go through from their group. That's going to give them massive confidence. So I see them going through quite comfortably now. And I don't know. I mean, I was looking through that Dutch team, and I think over the last few years they've been very underwhelming, to say the least. But I'm looking through that Dutch squad, and even on the bench, there's a lot of quality there. I think a lot of players who play all around Europe, maybe not the biggest names, but I think maybe as a squad they've got enough. They've got enough in there, perhaps, to get to the quarterfinals or maybe surprise a few. And with the experience and tactical nous of Louis van Gaal, they could maybe surprise a few in this tournament. So I'm not sure. They could be maybe a little bit of a dark horse that no one was expecting in this tournament.
Yeah, impressed them all. I mean, obviously Netherlands weren't the best today, but it's about getting results, as you mentioned. And I think players like Gakpo, obviously Van Dijk as well, is at the back at this tournament. Obviously missed the Euros due to injury. He's going to be a big player, I think, Van Dijk, and he had a very good game today, in my opinion, as well. And yeah, I think very good start for Netherlands. And Jordan, another home nation, actually played today. Wales just finished their game, actually, very recently. It's got to be said, John. I mean, I don't know if you watched the game, but if you did, it's fair to say I think Wales didn't play very well. I think USA were on top for most of the game. Very good goal as well by Weah to give them a 1-0 lead. But ultimately, Wales did what they usually do. They were very resilient, never gave up, defended really well. And it's got to be said, a 1-1 draw against USA, it leaves second place in this group, arguably, not getting too carried away with England, but most people say it leaves that fight for who goes through with England maybe very interesting. And it's got to be said, it's a very good result for Wales, considering they have Iran next as well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think I agree completely. I think USA dominated large proportions of that game, but with Wales, like they've just got like a never say die attitude, and they've had it since sort of the 2016 Euros, and obviously they are a passionate bunch. The fans are great as well. They didn't stop until they got that equalising goal, and I don't think Bale was at it today, even though he still scored a penalty. I don't think he was at it. He lost the ball a couple of times. But when they brought on Kiefer Moore, I think the game changed a little bit in Wales' favour because they've just got that vocal point with the big man up top. He's a great striker in international football, and I think he will cause some teams problems. He's a great player to bring off the bench, of course, because he's just got the physical nous. He's obviously he can hold the ball up, he can lay it off as well. So I think the substitution was great, and full credit to Robert Page to do it at the time that he did, because it was going a bit stale for Wales at large periods. But I think USA obviously was on top. They could have got a second and put Wales out of sight, but Wales will take that point all day long, and they could have even potentially nicked it at the end. I don't know if you've seen when Bale was about to pull the trigger, and about 40 yards, halfway line, and he just got clipped. You never know; it could have been the Bale show again. But I think there's more. Again, there's more to come with Wales. I think they'll get the result against Iran, and I think out of USA and Wales, I think they've got the potential to probably get a point out of us. Just because I think if we beat USA Friday, we're already through, and Southgate may be looking to. I mean, to be fair, I say that he's put some of the fringe players on. We still brought on a bench of Foden, Grealish, Rashford. So even our second string team would probably do the job against Wales. But if there was sort of a lapse in concentration, and we've got one eye on the round of 16, I think Wales could be the potentials to get at least a point out of us. But yeah, I think a good point overall for Wales. They'll be happy with that. Like I say, it could have ended up being a little sneaky win for Wales in the end. But I think they've done brilliant in the end, and they'll be looking forward to the Iran game there. Hopefully, looking to get the 3 points.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that, John. I did see that bit. I thought it was a very clever foul from the USA midfielder, to be fair, because, I mean, the goalkeeper turning was in no man's land. So if Bale does shoot, then that has a very good chance of going in, and obviously quite a clever foul, I guess you can say, to stop Bale shooting from there. Well worth the yellow card. But no, I agree, John. I think as well, obviously talking about the Wales-England game, I think obviously, if Wales were to beat Iran, even if England were to beat USA, I still think if Wales then beat England, they'd top the group. So Southgate's probably got to think that, we've still got to top this group at the end of the day, England. I think that 9 points obviously is the aim, and I think we've got a very good chance of doing that. But I don't really think we can afford to rest too many players. I mean, looking at Group A and our possible opponents, I'm thinking Senegal or Netherlands, I think, obviously, or even Ecuador. I think any of them teams wouldn't be bad to play. Not saying Qatar are out just yet, but I'm not really fancying them to finish second. But I think England have obviously got to make sure they do win the group there, really, and obviously build some momentum going into the last 16. Obviously, we're a very good start with that today, obviously. And we'll move on to you now, Nelson, about Wales. Obviously, another home nation. Good to see them at a World Cup. In so many years since Wales qualified for the World Cup as well. A 1-1 draw against USA. It's got to be said, as me and John said, USA really dominated large portions of this game, and Wales had to really dig in at times and get something. And I mentioned about Pulisic, of course, to you the other day, Nelson, that when he puts on a USA shirt, he just seems to be a different player, and he was absolutely brilliant today, in my opinion. Everything USA did went through him. A really good assist for the goal as well. But ultimately, though, Wales hung in there, and they got a draw, and I've got to say, it's a very good result for Wales.
It is. I completely agree. And I think Wales will take that all day long. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to watch the game. But I think, as we know, and we've seen from their sort of Euro performances, how much spirit and resilience and fight they have. Obviously, we've got a huge amount of sort of national pride and passion in the way they play. And I think you've mentioned Pulisic, but it's so easy to see with Bale as well. I know he's achieved a huge amount in the game, but there's something about when he pulls that on that Welsh shirt, he just plays with more pride, more passion, more determination. And I think with Wales, it's the first time they've reached the World Cup since 1958, I was reading. So it's fantastic to see them in there. And now I think they just want to try and impress people. And yes, it probably wasn't their best game today, and I'll watch the highlights back. But for them to be here after reaching, it was the semi-finals of the Euro 2016, I believe, and when they just lost to Portugal, and they did well in the last Euros, obviously with a difficult game against the Denmark, who were very, very good last year. But I think they can definitely be aiming to get out the group, and I think, as we mentioned before, it's a toss-up between them and the USA. And I think if they get a win over Iran in the next game, and I expect England to beat the USA pretty comfortably again in the next game. I think Wales are well on track to finish second in the group.
Yeah, it would be amazing if Wales, that of course both host nations going through, would be a very good result from Group B, of course. And anyway, we've kind of reached now, Jordan. We've reviewed all the games, of course, from today and even yesterday, going back to the Qatar-Ecuador game. And John, I'm going to ask you, actually, who is your player of the day from the World Cup today? I mean, I'm guessing it's going to be someone from England, of course, but there's some tough choices because England had so many good performers today that you could choose about 3 or 4 players. But which player for you stood out in the Iran game?
Like you say, there is a few players. It is going to be from England, of course, just because of the emphatic win that we have done. And even if it is Iran, of course, you still got to beat what's in front of you. It could have been a banana skin. It could have been a 0-0. It had the potential to, first game in the heat. It was a bit like, how's it going to go sort of thing. But there's honourable mentions, obviously, to the likes of Saka, obviously 2 goals in his first World Cup, just to show sort of the mental strength of what he had to deal with. And, the kid stepped up at the age of 19 years old to take a penalty in a Euro final, and he's dusted himself up and he's become Arsenal's player of the season as well. And then he's come in straight away, starting 11. He's got a point to prove. You'll have a point to prove. Same with Rashford. Rashford will have a point to prove, and they both come on and they both look like different animals, and they are going to worry a few teams. Obviously, the pair of them are. So Saka gets a mention, but not quite the player of the day. I think Kane had a good game. To be fair to him, I think obviously he didn't get his goal. It would have been nice for him to get a couple. on the score sheet. But it's nice to see that other players are scoring also, because we don't want to be heavily reliant on Harry Kane. And obviously with Callum Wilson coming off the bench as well, it just shows we don't have to just rely on Kane for this tournament. We have got, all areas of the pitch. I think we're brilliant. I've got to give a mention as well to Maguire, because I think Maguire's, again, he's had a lot of stick, over the past year. I think since the Euros, he's been hounded about Man United and his performances there. But when he plays for England, he's completely different. He must just be more relaxed, and obviously it suits him more because the game's a little bit slower than the Premiership, and England play on the front foot, and that's when Harry Maguire's at his best, when he's on the ball and he's making them forward passes, because he's very, very good on the ball. He's passing through the lines, and that's going to be key when we're playing teams like Iran, Wales, and USA. We've got to get that ball moving quick. So I think Maguire deserves a shout, but I think he's a little bit biased, but Jude Bellingham gets my player of the day, just because he got his first goal, good goal as well, good goal. He scored a good header, and he was just tremendous up and down that pitch. He was sensational, and there's more to come from the kid. And I've already spoke about him, obviously, but he's something. He's going to be something special in these next couple of years. And what a way to announce himself now! The whole world's watching. He's got billions of people watching him. And he just thrives off the pressure. And I just think that, like I say, today, he was that vocal point in the midfield alongside Rice. Rice done fantastic, just sitting in and allowing Bellingham a little bit more movement going forward and stuff. So Rice played well. But yeah, I think Bellingham gets my player of the day, mate.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I'd have to agree with that one as well, Jordan. My player of the day, certainly Jude Bellingham. We can make a very good case for Saka. And you make a really good point about Maguire, actually, Jordan. Obviously, so many critics in the last year or so, but he was brilliant today. I thought Maguire. He was an absolute menace in the penalty area. Obviously, Iran just couldn't live with him when every time a cross came into the box, he was winning the header. He obviously hit the crossbar. He got the assist for Saka's first goal. He was brilliant, Maguire. I thought today, absolutely brilliant. And again, that's maybe a reason why Gareth Southgate has kept faith with him. And I think that, obviously, it really paid off. Obviously, there'll be tougher opposition to come, and it can very easily turn in. Maguire has a bad game against the USA, but it's a very good start to life for Maguire in this tournament, and fair play to him. And even Luke Shaw as well, another player I think came under a lot of criticism recently. He was really good, got the assist as well for Bellingham's goal. I think very good performance from some players who have come under criticism today. And I think Rice and Bellingham, as I've mentioned before, is going to be England's partnership for years to come in that midfield. And I think it's a very good midfield too as well. I'll move on to you though, Nelson, now, and ask you for your player of the day. And again, guessing it's going to be someone from England, but is it someone different from Jude Bellingham?
Good question. Well, I think for me, it's definitely between Bellingham and Saka. I'm finding it difficult to think of one. I'd love to say Saka, but I think the way Bellingham just ran the show, he just sort of left me a little bit speechless at times. I think he's such an exceptional talent. I mean, you keep forgetting this guy. Is he 19? Is he 19 now, or is he still 18? I keep forgetting. So he's 19, and the way 19. He plays, thanks, yeah. So the way he plays, with such maturity, such composure, such technique. He's athletic. He steps in, he wins the ball, he drives it forward, box to box, scoring the first goal, getting England off the mark, which is, easier said than done to score that first goal in the tournament. And, he's not a forward, but he found himself in there with an absolutely fantastic header. He was pulling the strings, picking people out. He's just got everything to his game, and he's a joy to watch. And from a Liverpool point of view, I'm really hoping behind the scenes, and I think there's work going on to try and maybe bring him to the club, because he is a generational talent, and it will be fantastic to see how he continues to grow, because he's 19, he's world class already. So think what he's going to be like in just even 3 years' time from now.
Excellent. So final question for you guys. I'll start with you, Jordan. Now England have got their first game out of the way, an amazing game, obviously 6-2 win. Look ahead to Friday now, playing the USA. What's your prediction for that game, Jordan? Obviously, I know it's 12 years ago, but we did obviously draw 1-1 with them back in 2010. Obviously, a lot's changed since then. That was a long, long time ago. USA, though, I think they were quite impressive at times today. Yes, they didn't win the game, but I think USA showed enough for me going forward to prove they will cause England certainly more problems than Iran did. So do you think that, England, though, obviously, great chance to get 6 points out of 6 on the board. What's your prediction, though, for Friday's game?
Yeah, I think as long as we can just keep the attacking, like obviously Pulisic and Dest as well. I think they looked decent on the left, the two of them together. Obviously, got a lot of pace between them. And Pulisic is very good on the ball. And I think Trippier had a bit of he's solid, Trippier is, but he had a bit of a quiet day today. He gave the ball away a few times. So we're going to have to keep an eye on that right back position for sure. Obviously, Trippier, I think, can still do the job, absolutely. But as long as we can nullify that left-hand side, I think we'll easily win the game comfortably. I think Southgate will just be looking just to get qualified as soon as possible. And then we can experiment with different maybe formations and obviously players as well. So I think in terms of the score, I don't fancy USA to score against us, to be fair. I think that's our best formation of what he played today. It's got to be again played obviously Friday and hopefully against Wales as well. But the good thing is he can switch to a 3 at the back as well. And Maguire showed today that he can play in a 2 with Stones. Obviously he's done it before, so he that was sort of the question marks around it. But yeah, I think, like I say, if we can keep the left hand side quiet, I can't see any threat really from anywhere else in the pitch. And the way that we play today, I think we're just going to be on such a high. We're just going to want to play again as soon as possible. That these next 4 days are going to drag for the England players. But I think if I go for a score prediction, I think it's going to be 2-0. And I think Saka's going to score again. So I think, 2-0, comfortable, qualified by Friday.
Well, Saka could be on course for the Golden Boot then, if that's the case, because he's already got 2 to his name. But 2-0, I think it's a very fair score, John. I think that's probably what I'm going with right now as well. It definitely won't be easy, USA. I think they'll cause us a few problems. And I think, obviously, Weah as well today scored the goal. He looked a threat at times. But I do think we'll have a little bit too much for them, to be honest. And obviously, as well, Iran, I think, play Wales in the morning on Friday. So our game's afterwards. So if Wales were to beat Iran, it's going to give USA a huge incentive to attack England, I reckon, as well. And they'll have to obviously try and win the game. I think that might favour England in a way. I think USA will attack anyway. They certainly won't be as defensive as Iran were at 0-0. So, I think that's obviously going to be massive for England. Obviously, every game in a World Cup's massive, but this one on Friday as well, with obviously USA needing to win in particular, and obviously the way England's confidence now, England should hopefully have enough. And what about yourself, though, Nelson? What are you predicting for the game on Friday? England v USA. Who do you think is going to win?
More of the same, to be perfectly honest. I'm expecting quite a comfortable England victory. I mean, I think, obviously, as we mentioned, the USA will be up for it, and they'll want to get points on the board, of course. But I think the way England have played now, and their sort of, the attacking fluency we showed today, the range of, the depth in that area, I'm expecting us to cause them many, many problems. So I'm going to go for a 3-1 win. I'm going to give the Americans a goal. I'm going to give them a goal simply because I'm not entirely comfortable with our back line. I still think there are a few little problems there, and Iran did have a few opportunities today, and they seem to slice through us fairly easily at times. So I'm going to give the Americans a goal. So 3-1's my prediction, but I think it will be fairly comfortable for England again, and safely qualified for the next round.
Oh, that would be brilliant. And obviously, I think that if the more England can play well, the more confident the nation will become after a very disappointing Nations League. Yes, the Nations League is not the World Cup by any means, but feel like kind of dampened our expectation. But today's win for me has really sent it through the roof again. So hopefully we can carry on going. But thank you very much for joining me this evening anyway, guys. Great to see England get off to a good start in a major tournament. I mean, 6-2. Reminds me a little bit of when we beat Panama 6-1. A few years ago back in 2018, but a really, really good start for England. Obviously, some more good games. No 0-0s at the World Cup so far as well, which is always nice in this early stages. But obviously, got 4 games tomorrow. I'll be back tomorrow evening with another live broadcast as well. But thank you very much for joining me, guys, and have a good evening.
Cheers.
You're welcome. Boys. Thanks for having us.
See you later.
Nice one. Cheers, Nelson.